And in that field, yeah, it's still hard to measure. And all I remember was reading about this parallel story between a person that invested into their mental development and a guy who didn't. And I don't really get fazed with what we talk about.
Well, hello there and welcome to the latest episode of the About Small Business podcast. In this episode, I'm actually going to be talking to a mental performance coach. This is a new one for the podcast, and the gentleman I'm going to be speaking to is sat right here, and that's David Wilkinson. David, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Barry. I appreciate it.
Now, we did have a discussion last week, but for the benefit of anyone that doesn't know, can you just kind of give me a brief outline of what a mental performance coach is and how that might differentiate from any other coach, for example?
Yeah, because I get it, right? Like coaching's, there's a lot of different terminology for coaching and people in my industry, but I call it mental performance coaching because my job is to help people move through the mental and emotional barriers that stop them or inhibit them being able to access their highest level of performance. So be able to unleash their potential or reach their level of potential. So the mental aspect is making sure that I'm working with the mental aspect of a person as opposed to the physical. If you were like a PT or a physical coach.
Right, I understand. So I suppose with that in mind, it would be reasonable to assume that practically everyone could fit into a potential client for you, because I mean, how many of us can honestly say we're operating at maximum mental capacity?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, very true, right? I think that's me included as right. I think we're all, I would say we're all on our journey and we all know what we know and don't know what we don't know. So I think, yes, most people could benefit from having somebody that supports them. Same as exercise, right? Most people could benefit from doing exercise. Most people can benefit from understanding themselves a little bit better and what mentally gets in the way of them doing or acting in the way that they would like. So yes, most people can. But no, that we'll go into it, probably Barry a little bit into it, I think, is a lot of people don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think perhaps the most obvious potential client from you, for you, from a lazy perspective, be someone that knows that they've got some sort of issue.
Yeah.
But I suspect that's possibly not necessarily the kind of person that's always going to necessarily find their way to you.
Yes.
What kind of person tends to seek out your kind of services?
Well, that lends itself to the performance element, because usually it's people who want to perform at a higher level in what they do.
Yeah.
So that could be somebody who's got their business, got their own business. Yeah. Could be somebody who's higher up in the corporate ladder, so to speak. Could be somebody who works in performance arts, performance sector. Could be also somebody who works in sport, coach, athlete. So that's where that performance element comes in. Yes, could everybody benefit from some sort of mental coaching? Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. But my clients happen to be people who they can feel like gives them a return. Right. So I want to operate in high level in business or sport, and I want to get a return to do better in that, which might mean more increased income, better contract.
I was just going to ask you about that. How easy, because I mean, increasing your mental performance, how easy is that to actually measure?
Difficult. It's very difficult to measure in the way, we were talking about, you go to the gym, don't you? I go to the gym. So you can measure, like, am I able to run a kilometre faster? You're running the kilometre faster. So the data's there, right? That's the challenge that we're having in terms of...
There's a lot of cynicism surrounding this kind of thing. Correct. And anything to do with...
Correct.
Mentality, whether it be it mental health, be it mental coaching. Mm-hmm. And it's always been... It's all struck me as odd that we can fully understand that if someone breaks their arm... Mm-hmm. They're not going to be able to lift as much as someone that's not broken their arm. Yet with mental health, mental performance, everyone just kind of assumes that everyone's running at 100% capacity at all times. I've always found that a little bit odd, but even today, there still seems to be so much cynicism surrounding it.
100%. And I think it's because there's a lot of, pardon my French, BS out there. Yeah, they're quite honestly, because... the industry is contaminated with, like, different things that seem a little bit airy-fairy, woo-woo, like they can't really trust into it. Yes. Some people who've moved towards it have had a bad experience or been burnt with it.
Trust is huge.
Trust is huge. Now, when somebody's working with your mind, that is one of the biggest levels of trust you could give, right? Because it's a vulnerable aspect of us.
Yeah.
So that is a big part of it, is like trusting people. Do I trust people? Do I trust what they're talking about and how they do it? So that's a big thing. And kind of getting back to your point, like, there isn't a measurable factor, but the way my clients measure it with me is, am I performing better? What does that look like? Am I earning more money? Am I running my business more efficiently? Am I even sleeping better? Am I having a better relationship with my wife? Am I better relationship with my partner? Better relationship with my children? Is that what's happening because of? And they can get that very quickly by the feedback from their partners, from their staff, from their bank balance.
Okay.
So we make sure we are looking at those aspects as well.
Right. Okay. So I suppose the evidence, there is evidence there.
There is evidence,
but it's perhaps it's not the kind of thing that would fit well on a spreadsheet.
It's not going to fit right onto a spreadsheet.
And I think I can't help but feel that kind of evidence is still really important.
Yes.
Because I think when we try and quantify things in as measurable mathematically, for example, I think we miss so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the minute, we've certainly in schools, we've got a massive mental health epidemic, and people are just leaping onto all sorts of conclusions. I know from working in schools, it tends to be like sort of little incremental percentages. Certainly, politically, not want to move too far into politics, but certainly at the moment in this country, we've got huge issues with how people feel about how we're doing. And yet governments of all colours are always pointing to like sort of tiny little increments and percentages that prove we're actually doing well. But if it doesn't feel like that,
yeah, we don't know, right?
We've got a big problem.
Yeah, and feeling's subjective, isn't it? And it fluctuates and changes. And I think that's what's difficult with feelings, is like, and they're very real. Yeah. And I think I think you're right, we do need to take account of a feeling for somebody or where somebody's at. Yeah. When I am coaching a client, I'm always asking, well, how do you feel, and how do you feel about that, and where you at with that? But we want to make sure that that's acknowledged where they are, but then we still do work in a logical, or at least a certain specific element. And that's not to discount the emotional feeling. It just means one day I might have slept terribly, had an argument with my partner, I had a staff member want to leave, and I'm not going to feel great about that, but I still got to execute on what I want to execute on. Yes. We still have to do that. And yeah, I think in the world that we live in, we do try to measure everything, and yet it's difficult to measure feelings. And then what we'd say is, well, we could do questionnaires and we could measure it that way, but very much they're still biased. They still have cognitive bias in all things that we do. If
Absolutely.
We're filling it in.
It's more or less impossible to get away from cognitive bias. But
so obviously, and I was telling you this last time, I'm at university doing sports psychology, to be a sports psychologist, to bring that psychology element into this. Yes. And in that field, it's still hard to measure. It's working with top athletes, and they're only measuring things like heart rate, how anxiety affects people, pressure, is that changing, sweat, saliva. So they're still trying to measure physically towards the mental component, which is still, yes, but can't give you an all-rounded picture of a person, which is what we've still got to take into account in my industry. There's much more to talk about than just
So at what point did you become aware of like sort of the whole sort of mental performance and the concept that you could actually coach it? Because certainly I'm thinking back to when I first became aware of it, and I would say it's probably a relatively recent thing. It's something that in my 20s, I tried to pride myself on being relatively open-minded, but I can't help but feel I might have just scoffed at it, maybe 30 years ago. I'm sure it was going on. But when did you first come across it? Were you sceptical about it? And at what point did you decide that this was going to be something you were going to pursue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my career started in health and fitness. I started as a physical trainer, so that's what I did. And you're talking, from leaving school, going to college, 16, 18, and then coming out with that and going straight into work and training to be a personal trainer. That was, so by the time I was 20, I was a PT and I was coaching people. I'm 40 now, so that's 20 years of being around people. And you know, you could work with people on a physical level and take them so far. And it was always interesting to me. I didn't have the answer, but why do some people stick to a plan and follow the nutrition, do the training, make progress, and some people feel a little bit in and out, or they don't stick to it?
I think that's an interesting one as well, because the cynics amongst us, and, you know, I think that there's a healthy degree of scepticism.
Yeah.
But whenever we see the obesity crisis, the number of people that are going to be straight away saying, oh, well, you know, sort of the fruit and veg aisle at Aldi's nice and cheap, as though, or, you know, anyone can get to the gym. And I know people who know they need to go to the gym, but they just cannot bring themselves to do it.
Yeah.
They're just not there. They're not able to walk through the door. They're not, in some cases, not able to leave the house.
Well, I think when it comes to certain elements, certainly like level of obesity, I think that's a mental health challenge. That's probably something else going on. You know, if somebody was drinking every night and was using that to avoid or distract or give a level of comfort, not judging that, but that's me. But yeah, food were just like, oh, well, someone's eating all the time, but they're lazy or they're not disciplined, or no, that could be seriously a mental. That's just their vices, so to speak. What I think, and we might come back to this as an area, is I tried to start with clients with not about what we're adding in, but what we're going to take away first, and that might help us look right back round to that maybe later on about why that approach I found is a little bit more suitable for more people than it is. You're not doing this, you need to do more. All right, but going back to that element of why did some people achieve results and didn't, and then I just built my career working with people, from everything from PT to run boot camps to then opening a gym, to run a gym with my partner who's now my wife, and we had a business together and we scaled that, and we, you know, I grew something from training one person into training hundreds of people and really like loved it, absolutely loved it. But then two worlds kind of collided at that point when I was kind of getting to my late 20s, early 30s. There was this part of...
If you're enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to let you know exactly when another podcast's going to drop.
I want to be doing more than this to help people. This is not enough. So physically, just training people didn't feel enough for me anymore. I was like, I can take this further. I think I can make more of a difference. I want to, more of an interest in that. So that led me to like, okay, what's going on here mentally for people, emotionally, behaviour wise, that I might want to look at.
Was it something that was maybe conscious, you conscious of because you were experiencing it yourself?
Which was the parallel path, which was my life was starting to become, I was really struggling with business. I was getting very stressed out. It was causing a lot of frustrations. It was difficult in my personal relationship with my partner, working together in business, and I felt by the time I was approaching that late 20s, 30s, I felt a bit lost in myself. I hadn't really dealt with any of the mental, emotional kind of challenge that I had growing up, and getting to an age where I was like, I'm trying to succeed in what I want, but it's putting a lot of pressure in. I'm not really happy.
You're still kind of that generation of stiff upper lip as well, aren't you?
It's just borderline, I would say the millennial of like, probably grown parents, like, you know, just get on with it, hard work. And don't get me wrong, I love that value of hard work, but then it was hard work and no ability to stop it. Like I was just driving.
I was going to say, I think that the issue I have with hard work is the term itself. And I think it's such an issue, because I mean, hard work, what does it actually mean?
Subjective, isn't it?
And again, it's, as you mentioned earlier, you know, so many things are subjective. And to me, I feel as though other people believe that it's only hard work if you don't enjoy it.
Yeah, like it's a grind.
Like as though it's a real problem, and that's why so many people are looking to retirement or something like that. And I think that in itself colours people's view, because I mean this podcast is about people that are passionate about what they do. And I suspect most people that come on this podcast, they're not looking to retire quickly. They're looking to build something. It's that project. And again, referring to retirement, I know I've got a friend who he reached retirement age, says, "Oh, you're going to retire?" No, because everyone I know that's retired drops down dead within about a year.
Yeah.
Because there's no sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue that I have. I mean, sort of working towards something,
yes,
to me is hard work. If you're constantly looking to build, looking to grow, you're working hard. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
No, I mean, again, it's all opinion based, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Hard work, it's hard to measure, how to quantify, like you say.
Yeah.
Is that then people, well, if I've sacrificed and it's been brutal and, I'm exhausted, then I've done a shift, like, I get that.
I think the people that have done that want everyone else to kind of gone through that as well.
Yeah.
Before they accept that they've earned anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a shame, but it's people are different and entitled to their view. Exactly.
And I think coming from parents who instilled that, let's say, work ethic.
Yes.
And to be committed and responsible to what you want to accomplish. My parents are from working class backgrounds. They've always turned up being responsible. I felt like I got that, even though they they separated when I was young. Just kind of now as I look back as an adult, I'm like, yeah, they really are responsible, and I feel like I've always had that. Like, if I'm going to do something, I care about what I do.
Did either your parents self-employed?
My dad was for a little bit of period of time.
All right,
yes.
What did he do?
He was a plasterer. He still is, actually.
All right.
So he's still self-employed. So he's still working very hard, although he is cutting down those hours.
I was going to say,
it's a physical job.
It is. I've seen plasterers go at it. Obviously, I had some work done in my house recently, and it's. I think I would struggle to argue that was hard work. That wasn't hard work. It's not something I'd fancy doing myself.
It's not something I fancy doing. I remember being young, going sometimes on the site with them when I was a kid, like mixing the plaster, and I was just thinking, this is effort. You know what I mean?
You didn't fancy joining the family business?
No, I didn't. I didn't fancy it. I don't think I was that way inclined, or maybe it's that practical. My friends would laugh and probably say, "Yeah, you're not very practical, not very good with your hands." So then that was. So I've always given me all to something. So if I'm going to do something, I want to be the best that I can be at something.
Yeah.
So, and I was starting to get to that point in life. Like, my wife, she'd gone through a lot of therapy. She'd gone through a lot of her own personal growth at that time.
Yeah.
A lot that she dealt with, and I could just see her transitioning, going to a new career, evolving, just looking differently, coming out of the business. And there was a little part of me which was like, I'm not on that path for myself, and I'm feeling a little bit lost anyway. And that pushed me to start looking at myself. So I started having some therapy, some coaching, going down that personal development route for me. So I was still working in the gym, but I was just, who am I? What am I about? What do I want? Where am I going?
Can I just ask you, this is from a personal perspective, I think, because you're talking about a stage of life that I'm, I'm 53, and I'm absolutely convinced everybody kind of goes through what you're describing there. What was it that made you, because again, therapy for something, you get a lot of sneering, you get people who, it's an American thing, and so much cynicism. You don't come across at all as someone that is a bit sort of a woo-woo, I think, to use your own term. You're training in the gym, you're quite a big guy. What made someone like yourself think, I'm going to give therapy a go?
I think it was the conflicts in my behaviour and my personal relationship that I wasn't happy with. My frustration, my anger, the way I'd be volatile in arguments. I'm not saying physically aggressive, I'm just saying the way I was behaving, quite shut down. I just didn't like what it was becoming, and I felt like I couldn't get a handle on that for myself. And I was like, where's this coming from? Because this is not like during my normal day-to-day function. This is not where I am. I'm just struggling with this a lot. And I had to kind of go and speak to somebody, because I didn't want my relationship to be affected by it. And I'm not saying that whether or not people do or don't in arguments get loud or noisy, I understand that, but it was just more, I wasn't happy with how I was doing it, and it wasn't slowing down.
Right.
And I was like, right, there's got to be a change here. Mix into this, I'm just feeling I don't know, I was struggling to sleep, the pressure of business. I was just all coming to this point where I was like, if I, like, what's my choice here? If I continue down this route, I either potentially sabotage my relationship, because we're not married at this point. We don't have children. We're not moving our life forward. We're stuck in this place. We love each other, but we're stuck. I don't want to be in this career. I don't know what else I want to do. I'm stuck. I'm stressed out. And and it might sound bizarre for some people, my choice was to exercise harder. It wasn't necessarily to go down the pub more. It was exercise harder. I was starting to go to training twice a day. I was training, like, to just handle that.
I mean, you could argue it's a positive choice, but I suppose if your reasoning's not on the firm foundation, then...
And at that level, it's just I'm trying to, I guess, avoid and distract and do something that I think's making me feel better, but actually it's quite damaging, really, to think like that, to push yourself in that manner. There's a level, and then there's a level of what's this for. So now I'm just grinding my gears at this point in my life, and I don't know what to do about it. So I have to be I need to speak to somebody and get a bit of sense of things, because you can pick up a book, but what that's just information.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit and talk to my friends, we're not in that kind of conversation and friendships.
No, it's
my mum and dad. It's not. I don't have that relationship.
Well, funnily enough, I think my time that was similar was coming up to the approaching my 30s, and I was in probably a similar situation to yourself, and which is why I said earlier, what made you take that? And for me, therapy just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
No one was talking about depression. Now, I do feel, look, on reflection, I was depressed at work, but our decision, or my decision, was, I want to just pack it in and go around the world for a year, which is what we did. Yeah. And that was amazing. It was the best year I've ever had. Absolutely loved it. And I suppose that in itself provided a degree of therapy. It gave me that space to just reassess what I wanted to do. And just looking back, the number of people that I know that maybe didn't do anything like that didn't seek the professional help that you're saying you sought, and then just maybe got onto the self-medication, most likely alcohol, but in other scenarios, sort of drugs or anything like that.
Can go down a really dark path,
Yes, absolutely.
And I think for me, it's what we're taking back here. So we're definitely at least 10 years ago. So that seems strange, because we live in a world now where talk about how you feel, and it's okay not to be okay in mental health. But just only 10 years ago, it wasn't that big.
No.
And then you're saying for you, Barry, even another bit of time before that,
it just wasn't nothing. It just wasn't.
So what happened for me was my wife had been through therapy, so I could see the changes that she'd had, and she recommended I could speak to, because she wasn't working with me anymore, the person that she'd used, and I was like, well, at least that's a way in. I didn't know how to necessarily, well, who'd you find, who'd you go with? You got to go again, trust goes back to that. And I was like, well, she had a good relationship with her. I'll go down that route and speak to that person. So that was more of an easy in. Plus, being a personal trainer, been on a lot of courses. I'm always into personal development. I think it's always been something there. So it's just, I looked at it as another place of, I'm not being the best version of me here. I'm not a bad version. I'm not, I'm doing okay, but I know I can be a better person than this, and I'd like to be. Yeah. So I was always I'm happy to invest in it. And I've always, I am a lad from the northeast, and I'm not bringing that into the we're less than or more than anybody else in the country, but we are from the northeast, and it's slightly more of a, I guess, working class and slightly more deprived area. But I've always kind of moved
perhaps
to the
community.
Yeah,
I think it's nice though.
Yeah, community's beautiful, right? That's the one of the best parts of it.
Yeah.
But I've always sought those things of pushing myself and doing things that aren't always the norm.
I think you just mentioned, and I just want to bring that back, is you just mentioned investing. Because financially we think nothing of investing. It's everyone thinks their own house is their investment.
Yes.
But I suppose to become financially successful, savings only takes you so far.
Yeah.
Working in a job only takes you so far. you have to invest if you want to grow.
Exactly.
And I suppose that theory, because you know about the physical investment in your training, means that you're conditioning your muscles better. I know certainly there's a lot of material coming out at the minute that is really pushing guys of our age to get themselves down the gym, because that whole, if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's interesting because for me, I'm 53. I go down the gym regularly, and if I compare myself to other younger lads in the gym, it's like, and it, you know, I don't look like a gym bro or something like that. But then when I compare myself to other people my age in particular, and then especially those who don't go down the gym, then the difference is quite staggering.
Yes.
And I know you're not supposed to compare and things like that, but you know, we're people, and we inevitably do.
Of course you do. Absolutely. And as you talk, and it did remind me of a time when, I think sometimes we get lucky sometimes, and I happened to, when I was first starting my career as a personal trainer, I happened to work in a health club down in Durham, the Marriott Hotel Club, which was quite a nice facility once over. So you're talking like 2004, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And I happened to be, a lot of the member attendees were relatively successful people who would come in for the saunas and spas and use the gym and stuff, you know, like business owner men and finance guys. And sometimes, you know, you'd get the Premier League team staying at that hotel, and you know, and so you're always around that. And I remember one guy specifically, lovely man, finance, all into finance, had been for years, and his sons used to come in the gym, and he used to come in, and he took a bit of a liking to me, kind of probably being a younger lad and I remember he was the person I gave me my first personal development book. I can't remember what the book was, but he used to give me, right, a book. And all I remember was reading about this parallel story between a person that invested into their, like, mental development and a guy who didn't. It was like a parallel story, and it was just just an interesting book. I've forever searched years to try and remember the title, but I cannot.
That must be so frustrating.
I know, and it was like one was a car dealer and one was another guy. And anyway, and I read that book, and it always reminded me of thinking and going, hold on, so you can change the way you think about things. That never been taught to me before. I never learnt that. You can change the way you think about things, and that can change the life that you had. Just made it very interesting. And from that point, and then what he would do is he would make me finish the book in a time frame, give it back, and he'd give me another one. So I had to finish it in the time frame we'd set. So we'd set like 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and I'd just read them, and then he'd give me another one.
And this is quite fascinating, because this kind of almost sounds like he's sort of grooming you into your career.
Yeah,
because if he's giving you textbooks,
in a way, like certainly my mindset, because he used to do it with his sons. I mean, his sons went on to be very successful in finance. Yeah, and I think because he understood, like, he wasn't from this country originally, so he moved here, emigrated here, built a business, really successful guy, you know, just a like nice-natured man, just who wanted like people to do well. And I think because I was at a similar age to his sons, and they were like, he was like always like wanting to teach them. It just came across that way, and I just ended up getting very interested in it, you know. And so I think that really spurred to me, you know, going to the bookshop in Durham, Waterstones, and going getting another personal development book myself. Yeah.
I think that's it. It's a real rabbit hole, isn't it? It's like once you kind of start to open that up, there's so much that's fascinating about it. Because I mean, I suppose the whole, you know, like what we were saying when we first started talking about optimizing people's own mental performance, and yet we, you know, unless there's recent research, I think the last I'd heard we use about 20% of our brain's capacity. Right. Yeah. I'd love to know the original source for that, but I'm sure that's what
I've heard that
science has been telling us at the time, and it is staggering, as you say, how powerful your brain is.
Yes.
And I suppose, and that's the thing, and I think in many ways, social media is really starting to dumb down on that, because it's providing everyone with echo chambers, and so you're not. If people present to you another perspective. Some people, if they're really not used to being questioned, then they can take that as some sort of personal attack.
Yeah.
and that is ultimately hindering growth rather than that sort of understanding of someone else's position, because you're not learning, you're not growing. You've had a gym, you've had a successful business with your wife as well, and hit a point where you thought you wanted to develop further. And was there any sort of financial motive? Because it sounds as though there's not, to be fair, any financial motivation for you to go down the path that you took.
Not massively, more freedom based, like not financially, but definitely time, because working in a gym and running a gym, although we did have staff, it can be a big commitment in terms of being there first thing in the morning, 6 o'clock, being there, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, getting in, like sometimes working a weekend. So I was like, this is going to be difficult if we do have a family, to have a family, and I want to be around, and I'm getting a bit burnt out with this, this kind of, early mornings, late nights, like that commitment. So more of a time thing, more of I need a career that can work a little bit more into the, I don't know, people don't work 9 till 5, but you know what I mean, like get out of this.
You don't want to be like sort of 5 till midnight or whatever, do you? And
I just had this feeling, and I'm not, again, hope anybody listening to this, I'm not, but just for me, I didn't want to be in my 40s and 50s standing there training people. I didn't want that. I was like, I want something else to evolve in. I've done this, when I eventually come out of that career, you're talking 13, 14 years. That's a long stint from being, and I thought, I can do more, I can do something else, something new, something fresh, something that pushes me.
I think that's a nice thing now, is there's so many options. There's like, and you're never really too old, because I don't think people do care. If you are younger, then you've got the advantages that come with youth, like the energy, the whole enthusiasm kind of things. But to bring it back to what we mentioned earlier, as you get older, invariably, if you're, I suppose for most of us at this kind of, you've got an element of trust and credibility that you perhaps might not have had as a younger lad. I think you tend not to mind taking advice from someone that's a bit older as well. So
I think so. And with that comes, like you're saying, like maturity, a bit more sense of at peace with myself and where I am, and that again, that also lends into that, take 10, 15 years away. No, I was definitely not at peace with who I was. I didn't even know who I was. So sitting with people now, because I've done the work on myself, right, this is such an important thing. Because I've worked on myself and continue to, I am comfortable in whatever conversation's going to come up. The most difficult, and it's not that I'm pressing for, traumatic things that happen to people. That's not where my skill set lends itself. But people can invariably talk about difficult moments, difficult situations, things they're currently facing or have faced. At being younger than, not all my clients, but some of them certainly, I'm very much comfortable because I've been deeper myself and myself and me, and I don't really get fazed with what we talk about. I wouldn't have felt like that years ago. I would have been, but I'm someone with that, or what about me? Or it would have gone more internalized on myself. So that means it's very difficult to hold a space and listen to another person.
I think it's that lends sort of another conventional feeling in terms of experience as well, where you just mentioned about being younger than a number of your clients. And I think that's the thing. It's like, if you are doing very different things, then that is your experience, as opposed to someone that's maybe had the same year for 40 years in a career. I remember, like, sort of when I saw teachers, and I remember chatting to someone about their child had gone to the same school that they went to, and they were doing the same homework. And it's like, well, in that situation, that teacher in question would maybe say, I've got X number of years experience. It's like, well, is it really that when you're just repeating that same year over and over again, you're not trying anything new, you're not making those mistakes, evaluating those mistakes? And I think that is another big issue. It's like, mistakes are good.
Yeah, mistakes are
because
important.
You learn, and it's as I was saying about this podcast, I've made some horrendous mistakes. Of the podcast that I've got going out tonight, the sound is abysmal because I forgot to press the record on my main machine, and I didn't have a backup. So I've learnt from that, and consequently we have backups. So, but it's one of those things.
You have to learn that, right?
You do have to learn these things, and I think that is about that sort of growth, that sort of constantly reevaluating, constantly learning.
Yeah.
And you know, you never get there.
No, there is no there.
But I think that's the whole point. It's a journey, and it's about enjoying the journey as much as you can.
Yeah, there's that thing that what we call the messy edge, which is the point past where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
So there's the comfort point we all can get to, which is I know what I'm doing. I'm certain about what's predominantly going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable here. There's nothing wrong with that, but what it means is it gives the person a level of reassurance, but there's no growth, there's no ability to expand or explore beyond that point. Like anything, whether or not it's business, sport, performance, teaching, you can't get better unless you go into the messy edge, which is the ability to go past where your skill set is and learn to be vulnerable, to open it up, to then test yourself in that space, to then learn and evaluate something new. Oh, that worked, or I could tweak that, or that's better, or... And that's where, for me, all great growth goes into that messy edge.
Yeah.
Sit behind that, then you'll always have what you always have, right?
Yeah.
Again, nothing wrong with that. You be where you are. But if you do want to expand, you have to go into that which is vulnerable for people.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people get caught. And I guess
that's part of the investment, isn't it?
That's part of the investment.
And accepting that things are going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
Like for your financial investments, you might put in, 10 grand into an investment. You might look at it the following day and think, where's a third of my money gone? and panic. Now, if you pull it out then you have lost. But if you trust in the process and keep going and build up and, over a period of time, whatever that might be, then you are going to see those results.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a client about this today, and you'll understand this because you exercise and you've got family and things like that. The things that matter most in our life, so say, for example, for me, might be family, closest relationships, health, career, right? They're always dynamic.
Yeah.
So they're always changing. So they can never remain the same. So by definition, I have to keep putting work and effort into all of those things.
Yeah.
I have to keep showing up into them. I have to keep doing something about it. I can't just sit back and go, I've made it there. I can't just go, I've made it in my marriage, because then I'm not... there's going to be big questions getting asked. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, yeah.
You can't just go, wow, I've exercised for all those years. I'll just stop now and it'll stay the same. That's anything we care about enough is where we've got to keep putting that investment and showing up to keep it moving forward.
I think that's I've never really heard that phrase quite like that with marriage in particular, but it is a really good one, isn't it? Because myself and my wife, we've been married for 28 years this year, and we have had ups and downs. We've had people saying, "Oh, you always look so happy," and things like that. We still hold hands if we walk down the street. We still enjoy each other's company, but there's work that goes in, and but you're right. It's not an arrival, and I think unfortunately, this is a big problem I have with your traditional Disney movies. I think, they're lovely and entertaining, and they do evoke childhood memories. And I'm not saying we need to cancel Disney, but I think there needs to be a little bit more discussion about those stories, because it does, certainly for. Any sexism arguments aside, I don't want to get into that, but to tell someone that they're going to meet someone really special that makes that, and then they have arrived, because that's where those stories are presented, and it's and that's fine for fantasy.
Yes,
as long as it's like, well, okay, what happened after Cinderella then moved into the palace?
Yeah, did
the prince start taking advantage of her? Did she get lazy? Did she decide she wasn't? All right, well, this is it. I'm here now. I'm not going to work on keeping the prince happy, whatever. The prince decides, well, actually, I'm not going to help with the house at work. I'm going to stop shaving, whatever. And you've got all these things, and it's. It sounds ridiculous, but
I understand.
It illustrates everything, and that you're saying as part of your business that you need to continue to work on. And I suppose in many ways they're all sort of interconnected, aren't they? If you've got problems with your marriage, you're maybe not going to be performing optimally at your work. If your health isn't what it should be, then you kind of forget everything else, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, you're absolutely right. That's why I look at like everything with a client, the 360. It's not that I advise on any of those areas. I don't say to somebody, this is how to have a better marriage, or this is how to be like to run your business.
Yeah.
I'm not an advice giver, and who would I be to say this is how you should live your life? I don't do that. That's not my job. But I do bring it into the question and the consciousness of the client. How is things going at home? What are you doing? What are you doing with your family? Where do you spend your one time with your partner? What's your relationship like with your children? What's your health like? How are you sleeping? How are you starting your day? What you like with your staff? When do you spend time with your staff? How do you all of these things? Because everything, in my opinion, everything we do is an extension of where we are right now in this moment of life.
Yeah.
Good and bad, warts and all. So we can only operate in each of those areas based on how we feel and where we are with ourselves.
Yeah.
If you're happy and content and good with where you are, then that will show up in those parts of your life.
Yeah.
If you're down, unhappy, unmotivated, struggling, that's going to represent itself in those parts of your life. And so we're making sure that, well, how are you showing up in all those, and are you bringing all that into the conversation?
Yeah.
And just to be clear, not to be perfect, just a work in progress.
To make progress,
moving towards
That's
something. Because life is also happening as well. I say to clients, you've got your goals for you, and life's got its goals for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can set whatever we want to achieve, but then life's got its goals for us. Whatever's going on around us, it's not in our control.
I've got to ask you this then. I mean, firstly, are you religious? If not, do you at least believe in fate?
I'm not religious, but I do believe that there's something else outside of us. I don't know what that something else is.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's God in the sky or it's a universe and energy thing, but I do believe that there's more going on for us than just what we do, what our own control.
That's kind of how I feel, actually. I don't believe in God. I don't believe there's one all-powerful being that's looking down on us in that respect. I think possibly that's a metaphor to kind of help people formalise the mindset that I think you're kind of encouraging, as I think everyone should, us to move towards. What is fascinating me actually is just to go back to what you said about how you first decided you were going to look at therapy for yourself. I'm not sure if what you do would be described as therapy, because you've just said you're not giving advice, you're not you're very much a coach in terms of what you're saying. How do you go about finding clients? Because it's certainly not something that your average person, I would think, would Google. In the way that they might Google what your dad did. If I'm looking for a plaster, I know I need one. And I'm going to look up that and get one. I suppose, I mean, I used to work in advertising for the newspaper, and there were two sections. There was a classified advertising, and that'd be the kind of thing that your dad would advertise in, because it'd be in plaster.
I'm looking for that service.
We know everyone knows they're going to need a plaster at some point in their life, and that's where your dad's advert would be. Your advert would more likely come under display advertising. Which is kind of exploded at the minute, like sort of through your TikToks, Instagram, that kind of thing.
Would that be like an editorial piece, like a piece on the person?
Or just a big half-page advert. More expensive.
It is more expensive to market this type of stuff. So where do clients come from? Well, clients predominantly now come from referral. And that is a massive part of the business for me. And that speaks volumes for itself, right? I would say
absolutely
95% of clients are referred by other clients.
But obviously, I'm assuming it wasn't always that way.
No, and so what I find is the way I find clients is originally is to go out and meet people. So go to networking events, go to business, build relationships with people, build relationships with people around that. environment and have conversations, and then through conversations people find out a little bit about what I do, a little bit about what they do, and whether or not there's a match there. Like, oh, actually, I am looking to perform a little better in my business, or I am looking to, they might come with the classic introductory challenges, which is, I'm not showing up my business the best I could, or it's not accomplishing the level I want, or I'm really stressed and I'm going home and it's affecting my relationships or my ability to be present at home, or now looking at sport, it's like I want to sport, like I want to optimize what I'm doing and accomplish and win more. So they would present with those introductory challenges, and then with me we'd investigate what might be creating that, and why that is a thing for you, and how we can look to unblock that and work towards that, but also develop you in a way that you can continue handling other things that do come up and around things as you grow, because naturally part of growth, as we've discussed, you're in the vulnerable section, so things can affect you more, and we want to keep you working towards what you want. So this is kind of going for what you want and giving you a little bit about what you need. Kind of works in that manner.
Now, I know you've already mentioned, like sort of earlier on, in terms of your direction, you are looking to sort of move more into the working with high level athletes and looking at optimum. How do you foresee your life shaping out in, say, 10 years' time?
Well, it'll take me till I'm 48 to be fully chartered as a sports psychologist.
Right.
So I've got at least 7 more years in a bit. So I've got the degree to finish off, then the masters, then 3 years of chartering, which is supervised work. So I say that because being a sports psychologist is an actual real profession.
Yes,
it is actually scientifically backed.
Yes,
which has been a bit of an interest. We were talking a little bit before, like, how do we get out of the fluffiness?
Avoid the cynicism.
Correct.
And this is now science. This is provable.
Being provable.
Yeah.
What does pressure do to a person? How do we help them deal with pressure? What is the approach? Yes, there might be a different approach for different people, but this is the model that works, or this is the model that's best shown to work. Neuroscience is a big part of that, but that's against more to learn and develop on. So my journey now will be working towards that charter.
So it's very much a long-term thing then, isn't it? A
long-term thing. And the beauty with that is I get to work with people every day as I work towards that. So I get to practice and implement as I go. And there's not a lot of difference between sport and business, in my opinion. You're just doing something. They're doing sport.
I think fundamentally it's all about helping people.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
There's a slight difference in strategy or effort to physical, more physical than sport, but you still need energy in business, like you said, or perform well. But so they cross over nicely. And I still will work in business as I'm doing sport, because both those worlds are very interesting to me, and I think that's what it's about. But it is about the person. I'm very interested in people. How do I help that person be the best that they can be? Which is
exactly what you're doing.
Which is exactly what I do.
Proceed forward onto your career. I think that's a brilliant way to end the podcast. So, David, I wish you all the best with it.
Thank you
very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Barry.